We're here with Dr. David Cragin, who is a toxicologist, and so he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. David, would you like to tell us a little bit about your background?
I'm Dave Cragin. I have a Ph.D. in pharmacology and toxicology from the University of California at Davis. I'm board certified by the American Board of Toxicology. And in my career, I've worked for multiple companies. I worked for Exxon, which is now ExxonMobil. I worked for ICF Kaiser, environmental consulting firm. Worked for Arkema, which is a French-owned chemical company. I was at Merck for many years, and now I work for Teva Pharmaceuticals.
Great background here, thank you. So with that big background, could you just give us how did you get into STEM? How did you start your PhD?
I've been interested in science since I was a little kid. I asked my parents, when did I get interested in the environment? And they said, kind of forever. When I was, I think, 4.5 years old, the town I lived in, New England, had a July 4th celebration, and people dressed their bicycles up with an environmental theme. I couldn't ride a bicycle at that age, but I had a 4-wheel vehicle that my dad dressed up in an environmental theme because I was interested in it. So I've been interested as a kid, and then when I was a sophomore in college getting my degree in zoology, I was trying to figure out what to do for graduate school. And one of the professors at the University of Rhode Island talked about toxicology to me. And I'd never even heard of it before. But once I heard about it, learned it, I said, oh, that's what I want to study. And I never would want to change my major. If I went back to school, I'd still want to get my PhD in toxicology.
That's good. It started from a young age. I think that's pretty similar. That's how I started from a young age. Not necessarily chemistry, but just science in general. So what kind of science do you do now in your day-to-day?
Toxicology covers biology, chemistry, risk assessment. The goal of toxicology is to protect human health and the environment from the effects of chemicals. So we do everything from setting what's an acceptable discharge limit from a factory to ensure you don't affect fish, creatures that might live in the animal area, people who might drink the water. From an occupational perspective, if you're making a pharmaceutical or making an industrial chemical, really making anything, what's a safe level of exposure for your employees? Quite a few years ago, I heard a Belgian occupational physician talk about the most common occupational allergen in Belgium was flour. In bakers, you don't think flour is dangerous, but if you're working with it every day and you become allergic to it, that's a problem because you can't bake anymore.
So root toxicology is basically all around us.
Everything. Anything you touch, anything you use, natural or synthetic, that matters to toxicologists.
Okay. Thanks for that background. Tell us more about your science you do. So what's something that you think people misunderstand most about science? It could be the science you do in general, and that's something that the STEM community can work on to improve that.
Well, I think, particularly for my field, people have a sense that natural is safe and synthetic is unsafe. And it's simply not true. Some of the most toxic substances on Earth are natural, and some very safe materials are synthetic or made by humans. And the key to toxicology is figuring out for any chemical, whether it's natural, whether it's man-made, what's a safe level of exposure for it. And people just say, oh, it's natural, it's safe. That's not a good approach.
Cyanide's natural, that'll kill you. So we have a lot of students that watch here because they're at least somewhat interested in STEM career. What advice do you have for someone that wants to get into STEM right now?
I think it's a great field to go into. I've never once regretted going into STEM, particularly toxicology. Toxicology is an area that virtually any company you can imagine has toxicologists. Automotive companies have toxicologists. You get in a new car, you like that new car smell. Well, we don't think about, could there be a risk? Well, you don't have to worry about that risk because odds are they've had toxicologists who looked at that. When you put on a new shirt, just think about it. Does it look good? you don't think, oh, could there be a dangerous colorant in it? Well, you don't have to worry about that because odds are toxicologists have looked at that to see, is it going to be safe to be used for clothing? So toxicology is happening all the time in the background.
So someone that's just kind of interested in applying science to everyday life, figure out what you do in your life and how science can apply to it, and that would be maybe follow that first to see where your interest takes you.
Yeah, for me, like I was a zoology major undergraduate, and I knew zoology, biology, it's a hard major, but they tend to be very poor paying jobs. So I knew I'd have to go to graduate school. And when I was a sophomore at the University of Rhode Island, I went around and I talked to a whole bunch of the faculty. And there was one professor in food science, and he just talked for 45 minutes on toxicology. I had never even heard of it before. And once he told me about it, I got interested in it. So talk to different people, find out what they do, what might interest you.
What was a piece of advice that you wish someone told you when you were in either undergrad or grad school, or maybe that no one told you, but you would tell your younger self?
It's good to start networking, even when you're an undergraduate. And it doesn't mean just meeting senior level people. It could be someone at your level. It even could be someone junior to you. I've had great opportunities happen because I've helped different people. I used to teach as an adjunct for the University of the Sciences in Philadelphia. That came about because we had an undergraduate intern I gave some career advice to. And she asked me, could you come to my toxicology club and give a talk on risk assessment? And that eventually led me to teaching a full 3-credit course at that university as an adjunct professor.
It's interesting. So start networking now, and even things you might not think that are networking could be networking. So now some advice you would have you had. What's the biggest challenge you face as a scientist, would you say?
Well, this goes back to careers. Everybody compares themselves to other people. And it's easy to make yourself feel unhappy or feel like it's not fair because this other person got ahead and you didn't. You've got strong skills, they didn't. So I think a big challenge is to focus on yourself and figuring out where do you want to go in your career for your success. And don't compare yourself to others because you often only see the surface of their success. You don't know what goes on underneath.
I think that's really great advice. Comparison is the thief of joy. So speaking of networking, you're a networking expert. I use you for plenty of networking advice. Can you explain to some of our younger viewers who are like 18 to 22 why networking is so important?
Networking is important because you can never predict who might help you, what might happen. And when you're networking, don't go with a specific goal in mind other than to get to know people. Because if you're focusing on a person because you want a job with them, that's probably not going to be as comfortable. Whereas if you network with them because there's a natural chemistry between you, you like talking with them, that's much easier. Evan and I, we talk easily. We have fun talking. He was a paratrooper.
I was.
I jumped once in college, but it was fun talking with him about it because I don't talk with many people about that. And when I jumped, we actually used military parachutes. So it was fun to have that. So that establishes a level of rapport. I have another mentee, and when we first talked, she was a student at Rutgers University, and she said, "Oh, I saw you went to University of Rhode Island. I'm from Rhode Island." It creates connection. So it's easy to think, "Oh, I'm just an undergrad. No one wants to talk to me." However, have confidence in yourself, and if you connect with the right person, they can be very interesting.
Okay, well, that kind of almost answered the next question, which was, for young people who feel like they don't know where to start, I think you kind of answered this. Just start trying to just talk to people you find interesting. Don't necessarily look for a job. Just find people you find interesting, that you kind of share interests, similar, research goals, ideations with, and just see where it takes you. Just kind of, because maybe all you want is a job, and they can kind of sniff it out.
Right. One of the people I talked with, she was an undergraduate intern at TED this summer. I met her now, she's in her senior year. She's a pleasure to talk to, and I'm so impressed that an undergraduate can talk as easily as she can. And the cool thing she does, she's a volunteer EMT. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's always good to have something interesting to talk about with anyone, even if it's just sports. Sports brings people together. So the last one, before we let you go here, what are 3 quick tips that you could do to improve your networking, like today, tomorrow, for the people out there?
Well, one thing is listen to audiobooks, YouTube videos, whatever, to learn new things from other people. I'm amazed. I'm still learning new things. A few years ago, I listened to a book. It was something like 46 ways to connect with people or 47 ways to connect with people. Most of it I would use or I use already, but it had one idea I had never thought of. And it said, if you're new in a social situation or in a business situation, try to be the first person in the room. That way, whoever arrives first, you can talk with them. I like that advice because even though I'm extroverted, if I walk into a room of people I don't know and they're already talking together, it can be hard to break into that conversation. Whereas if you're there first, you can bring people into your conversation. So I think, learn from others. Don't limit yourself. Don't think I'm only going to talk to people. Is that the intern we're talking to? She's a biomedical engineer. She's not a toxicologist. She has no interest in becoming a toxicologist. Yet we still have good discussions about her career.
Mm-hmm. So that's great. So consume as much literature as you can just about the topic, and then be the first one in the room so that way when people come in, you can talk to them, they want to talk to you, because it's scary to go into a room where there's already people talking, then you have to break into that. And 3 was keep your network open. I'm a chemist. I don't only talk to just chemists because I really limit my network. I talk to tons of people that aren't even in the STEM field. So I think that's really great advice. David, thank you so much, and thanks for being here. And if there's someone else that you think that I should talk to and interview, let me know below in the comments. Have a great day, guys.